All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful and honestly pretty visionary argument about female creative energy. It's all drawn from Osho's work, The Book of Women. We're going to zoom in on the core ideas from two really important chapters, motherhood and creativity, to get to the heart of what is a truly radical vision for our potential.
Okay, let's just start right here. Osho kicks things off with this incredibly stark image, doesn't he? It's meant to frame the historical condition of women, a state that he argues was defined almost completely by biology.
So, we're going to unpack this whole vision in 5 steps. We'll start with this idea of the biological factory and build all the way up to what Osho calls a new creative dawn. Let's get into it.
First, we've got to look back to understand the present. Osho paints this picture of history where a woman's entire role was basically boxed in by her ability to have children. And this created a really powerful split, you see. For centuries, you had men's creative energy flowing outward, into art, science, building the world. But women's energy? It was turned inward, focused almost exclusively on the biology of making more people.
And the results of this were just massive. This role essentially became a cage. It led to total economic dependence, a life of one physically draining pregnancy after another, and it meant that any individual talents were just buried. A woman was reduced to being, as Osho puts it, a factory, a tool used by nature and by man.
But then, something happened. Something huge that fundamentally shattered this ancient pattern. A turning point that offered a key to finally unlock that cage.
So what was it? For Osho, it was contraception. And look, he doesn't see this as just some medical tech. No, he calls it the greatest revolution in all of human history. And you gotta ask, why? Well, because for the very first time, it completely broke that automatic link between sex and having a baby.
And this is the absolute core of the argument. That single development meant that a woman's life force, her essential energy, was no longer locked into one, and only one, destiny. It was free. It was available to be poured into totally new things.
So, with this newfound freedom, how do things actually change? Well, it lets us get into the really deep difference between what Osho calls biological reproduction and conscious creation.
And the contrast he draws is, well, it's night and day. Reproduction, he says, is natural, it's unconscious, it's biological, it's something all animals do. But creation, that's something else entirely. It's conscious, it's meditative, it's a uniquely human, maybe even divine act. It's not just repeating a pattern, it's making something totally new.
So what are we talking about when we say true creation? We're talking about giving birth to a poem, or composing a symphony, or pushing science forward, or painting a masterpiece. And maybe the highest form of all is the inner creation of meditation. With her energy now free, all of these paths are wide open to women.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? The whole game changes. You're moving from an unconscious biological function to a fully conscious, deliberate act of bringing something original and beautiful into the world. Okay, but wait a minute. What does all this mean for motherhood itself? Is it just thrown out? Not at all. Instead, it gets completely transformed from a biological duty into a deep spiritual choice. See, when motherhood is freely chosen, not just something that happens to you because of biology or society, it becomes this incredibly powerful event. It's a spiritual rebirth for the woman herself. I mean, this is such a beautiful way of looking at it. The birth is happening on 2 levels. As the child comes into the world, the woman is reborn as a mother, and she enters a totally different state of being. It's a huge leap for her own consciousness. So this new conscious motherhood, it's really an art form. It has its own principles. It's about loving a child without owning them. It's about sharing your wisdom without forcing anything on them. And it's about creating an atmosphere of celebration, of joy, of meditation for this new life. And all of this builds up to a really inspiring conclusion, a vision of the future where this liberated female energy can actually reshape our world. When that constant, draining weight of forced reproduction is finally lifted, that divine feminine energy, what's often called Shakti, or pure life force, is finally free to be channeled into transforming everything.
And the potential here is just limitless. Osho argues that woman, who is naturally overflowing with this creative force, can now reach enlightenment, compose like Mozart,
give birth to symphonies, make huge scientific discoveries. He even suggests she might one day surpass man's creative output.
And here it is. This might be the most visionary statement in the entire book. The idea is that this freed energy won't just copy what's been done before. It could actually give birth to entirely new levels of consciousness, to greater Buddhas.
And so, we're left with this incredibly powerful and personal question. For the first time in history, the door to that biological cage has been thrown wide open. The question is no longer for society, it's for you. What will you choose to create?